when I was at the last, I think it was the last commission meeting when I had the YouTube, I didn't have audio, so I had my microphone was, I had the YouTube and then I had my, I was participating on my phone. And it was so disorienting because I was watching it moments after it had actually happened. It was very.
That would be disorienting.
I finally stopped because it was not.
That would be disorienting. And Kate.
There she is.
Hello.
Are we live?
We are live. Thank you.
Alrighty. Good evening. And welcome to this Community Engagement Committee of the Human Rights Commission on a beautiful Wednesday evening. We're gonna go ahead and do introductions, as is our custom. Kathy, you want to get started?
Sure. Kathy Ostrand-Planchett, a member of this committee, as well as the Human Rights Commission, and I live in South Salem.
My name is Robert Marshall. I live in Ward 2. I am a member of the Human Rights Commission and a member of this committee. I will pass it off to Kate.
I'm Kate Strathty. I live in Ward 1. I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission, and I do not really want to be on video today, but I've been sick this week. Allergy season's been really bad, but if you need me to, I can turn it on. I'd prefer not to, but I can if you need me to. So
We appreciate any way that you can participate, Kate.
okay.
Here you are. Gretchen, who are you?
Yes, Gretchen Bennett, staff liaison to the Human Rights Commission, she, her pronouns.
Great, thank you. Did we receive public comment?
So the fearless leader.
Fearless, no, fearless support. Go ahead.
We received public comment?
No, sir, no public comment received.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve last meeting's minutes?
Go ahead.
Consider that and read them. I do not feel comfortable making that motion.
No, I can make the motion. That would have been our March
Yeah, because
meeting.
April, you, what's the word? You deferred your
Yeah.
time to the broader commission.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going back.
There was some community engagement in that meeting.
There was. Yeah, I'll move to approve. Just the minutes, not the.
That's right.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Gretchen, I can't recall if I was there. I think I was at the community engagement meeting, so I think I can approve them, but I don't think I was at the actual Human Rights Commission meeting. So
That's still okay. Thank you for thinking
okay,
about it.
then
though.
approved.
Thank you, Kate.
Seconded.
Just out of point of curiosity, does the member have to have been present to approve?
It's
know
ideal,
it's
but there's not a
preferable.
hard and fast
Sure.
rule.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty, thank you, everybody. Gretch, do you want to?
Yeah. The status of your community belong survey is that it has now closed field, as Marianne likes to say. So with the students at Western Oregon University and several of you participated in both some in-person and a lot of pushing on online ways for the community to take the community survey. It was in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Chukis, and Marshallese. We did have a delay in the Islander languages, but then did get it out the door. Marianne told me there were over 1,000 respondents, but I don't remember of those how many were completed responses. You might remember, but okay. But basically, we're now in the post-field phase where the students are analyzing the data and starting to prepare their report for the June Human Rights Commission meeting, where
Okay.
you're gonna get their analysis, their recommendations, their ideas as they've gone through it. And then customarily, the commission has wanted some time to chew on it, think about it, dig into the details, provide some analysis themselves, and then bring a document to the city council of some kind to update them on the work. And so I wondered if tonight you'd want to kind of timeline that out a little bit and identify exactly how you think that might be able to flow.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. 1,000 responded. Weren't we like in the 400s or was it more
No,
than
it was last
800?
year's.
500 and something?
Let's,
So
okay,
we've done-
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, this looks like the biggest ever to me, because the year before we'd hit 700 to 800, 700, so this achieved largest.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
I think that's good.
Yes, I do
It'll be
too.
interesting to analyze kind of what drove that increase. Like that's significant of an increase, from 500 to 1,000, like the year prior being, 700. But it'd be great to kind of analyze what kind of led to, that significant increase, so that we can build upon that for the next year in hopes to, get over 1,000 responses.
Yeah.
I had an interesting conversation with Willamette, by the way, and they asked to be consulted earlier in the process, that they have to validate, I guess, every survey that comes their way. And it was, now I'm blanking on the name. There's a certain office that does the provost, maybe. And the person I reached out to was really helpful and was actually a researcher herself. And so I recommended that she even come to our meeting next year and kind of get involved in the process of, working through the survey questions with us. I was like, if you want to come and give us some advice, I mean, we welcome that, so that Willamette would be involved. I'm like, this is the largest university, I believe, other than Chemeketa, within the city limits. And I was like, I think that would be great if you wanted to just distribute the survey, but I think they have to feel comfortable to do that. And so I had reached out to a couple of professors who distribute it to their students independently, but Willamette overall was not super pleased with me. And so in the future years, they would like the provost office, I believe, to get involved. And so I think that's great that at least we have that relationship. And Gretchen, what I can do is get you her name so that next year we can just bring them into that process a little earlier. And then hopefully they can help us find ways to distribute it amongst Willamette students, which I think would be great because it's just a huge part of our community. So.
Kate, that's awesome. This is Gretchen. I think that's wonderful, and I'd love to get that and send it out. And just one kind of neat bit of history about this survey is the very first year we did it, Professor Bradshaw did it with a class at Willamette. I remember the very first meeting where I first met the professor, I think 6 years ago now. This is our 6th.
Yeah.
We met over at Willamette, and it was a class. She was teaching at both Willamette and Western at the time. And then she moved it to Western the next year. We've been with Western ever since. So we have a neat beginning origin story with Willamette.
Yeah, I let them know that, but I think that they said that they received so many surveys that they're just concerned of like what the survey's for, but that they supported the cause. The other thing that was really interesting as I was looking through, the background or talking to them was they do have a bias hotline for the university. And so as we were talking about data within our, the Human Rights Commission and what could drive a decrease in calls or an increase in calls, a university of that size having its own hotline, I don't know when that was started either, but maybe that also could have driven a decrease or increase in calls. So that was just interesting too. So it would be good to maybe have her come talk to us and just talk about Willamette in general. But yeah, it was a good relationship to build, I guess.
That's great.
That's wonderful, Kate. Thank you. And that was the provost, you said?
Yeah, I believe that's the office, and I will get you that information. I was supposed to meet up with her for coffee. We weren't able to link schedules, so I will get her contact information. At least we can invite her to future meetings and see if she's able to connect.
Thank you. Provost is the chief academic officer of any university, and they're usually second in command after the president. For those who are interested in knowing,
I appreciate you.
those
I was
academic
on my way home, so.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Any other questions about the survey? I will say preliminarily to your point, Robert. We did do a lot more in-person outreach than we had before. Typically, we do at least one in-person with Linnell in our unsheltered community. But we were at May Day. We were at, I think, at least one Islander event, and Linnell supported us as well.
Mm-hmm.
She has in the past, and this year, as opposed to last year, we did manage to get it out to the listserv for the AP network, the movement. I'm sorry, I'm tired. The Advanced the Latino Power Movement, all the other organizations and stuff, so
Okay.
that reached some 4,000 people. So anyways, I don't know,
That's awesome.
we'll see. And then, of course, you know, Kate's efforts and other people's efforts, so.
You sent it to quite a few
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had more time
Mhm.
to allocate to outreach. Last year, for those of you who were here, I guess maybe you, Kathy, who were here to remember, but we were doing so much content revision, so many changes that needed to be done. But I think it came at the sacrifice of some outreach or time.
I think that's part of the reason why we did the translations earlier this year, is to save that time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
We turn around right after it closed and like starting, let's say, as if next month we would start editing the language again. We did that last year. That helped have a longer runway. So, am I missing anything from that, Kathy?
I don't think so. Don't think I think of. So their students are gonna come present at our next full commission meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
June.
June.
Oh, that's a 2024 calendar now.
Yeah,
Oh,
June something.
I've
The
always looked at
second
it
Wednesday in June, I know, it was,
well.
yeah, they'll be there.
Good.
Yeah,
Are they coming in person? Or is that online?
we offered both and I don't know,
Okay.
maybe it'll be a combo. Yeah,
I think this will be the first in person if they are in person.
yeah.
But anyways.
If they do come in person, is this a big enough room for the commission and?
Thank you, that's a great question, I didn't think about that. Probably not. So I should get a sense from Mary Ann and maybe move us if a plurality of them might come. Yeah,
So in terms of timeline for digesting, some of that we won't be able to maybe say in advance, having not seen the reports, but last year, we kind of kept pushing out, not flippantly, I think we just wanted more time. And so it would close in May, we heard about it in June, it wasn't until October that Hamadi presented to, I think Lisa presented.
Yeah,
Lisa presented to council.
yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
Last minute. And anyways, so is that something is that our ambition is to present by fall or give us the summer? That would give us 3 full commission meetings, 1 to hear about it, 2 more to think about it. This time, just kind of aspirationally think about it.
October seems a bit late. If we're gonna hear the results in June, it'd be nice to provide that information to council sooner, in my opinion. But at the same time, if there's things that without knowing what the results are, you know, what it's gonna tell us, we might need that time to.
So the only thing I would say, I'm just thinking of this right now, we're gonna have a whole new council in January.
Are we?
Oh,
Yeah.
Because,
I don't live in the cities, in the city limits, so I don't pay as
well,
little attention.
true enough,
I know
but
there's at least one, but that's.
so there are 5 seats that are up.
Right, okay.
Mayor and the 4 odds.
Yeah, but there are 5 positions that'll have potentially new people
Okay,
out of an 8-person plus mayor
Okay.
council. And so it's not a reason that I'm not suggesting we postpone it until after they are sworn in. I'm just saying we may do it twice.
That's what I was, when you were discussing that, I was about to make that same suggestion, is we could release the results and everything, in the fall, like we've done in the past, but then also, try to present it again in, January, February, when the new council is seated, so that we can kind of provide them with an overview, they can kind of see, like they can see the work the Human Rights Commission's done, they can see the results of the community belonging survey. It also provides them as counselors and everything kind of, like a roadmap for things that they might want to focus on.
Yeah.
In terms of, like their wards and the constituents they interact with. So I would definitely be up for the idea of presenting it twice.
What are your thoughts, Robert, about given just doing it twice? I don't think it's redundant, but what about if we, let's say in July, said, here's numerically what we know.
Yeah.
Give us time to process it. We'll be back in 6 months to tell you what we recommend to do with this language.
That,
I like that.
yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
As a
Yeah, we can,
potential-
we can publish the results to council,
Yeah.
you know, what we learned, and then provide our further analysis and recommendations moving forward.
Yeah.
To the new council.
I like that.
It's kind of a little in
Yeah.
between.
I don't like holding, like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we have this information, but we're not ready to share it yet. I like that idea of sharing it. I mean, it happened, we know.
Yeah.
And that might be a good
And then take some time
practice
to,
moving forward too in future years.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, here's what we know right now. We're gonna come back to you in 6 months.
And then it doesn't rush us, you know, so much in terms of, you know, like trying to decipher that data, because I felt that, you know, even this year, we were still kind of deciphering some of the, like, we're still analyzing.
Yeah.
You know, some of those data points and everything well after we'd already published it to council.
Yeah.
And so I like this approach of just,
Mhm.
you know, give them a 35,000 foot overview and what we learned from it. And then taking a little more time for ourselves to digest that information
Mhm.
and then delivering another report.
Do you think maybe open it up?
Maybe, I think it's possible. I know they have a lot.
Yeah.
And that's 2 slots, but they're far enough apart. And it's a big enough survey that I think it's possible. Let me do a preliminary check on that. Raise the balloon a little bit and see. Sounds good.
How much time did they allow us last time? Not a whole lot. I think it was
Not a
five,
whole
5
lot.
minutes.
I tried to keep them
It was
like
5
3 to
minutes.
5.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think if memory serves, which it often doesn't for me, we had asked for 15 and they said, you have 5, which is great, but
I think I knew they'd need you to
Or you
5, so
knew
I just
that.
started like, cause that's how they're trying to have everything go, a lot of late
So you went
meetings.
like a true negotiator. You're like, I'm gonna say 15, knowing that I'm only gonna get 5.
Yeah.
But if you started with 5, you're gonna give us 2. And then
Right.
there you go.
And unlimited to public comment.
Yeah, if a commissioner asks, if a counselor asks a question, that can take more time, it doesn't have to come out of your report. But they've had so many things, they've been running some late meetings.
they have.
Their last one, I think it was 10 when we left, so they're trying to keep things as tight as possible.
They meet every other week?
They meet the 2nd and 4th
Okay.
Mondays, except in May, they moved to Tuesday because of Memorial Day. Yeah, and then they often have a work session on the 3rd Monday as well, so,
Oh,
but a
okay.
work session's, you know, structured different than a city council meeting.
And counselors often attend as liaisons, boards and commission meetings. on
Yep.
Tuesdays.
And neighborhood associations
Neighborhood
too, yeah,
A lot of time. Okay.
yes.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions or thoughts about what we discussed on the survey?
So.
No,
go
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kate.
Well, this is a little derailing, but I just wanted to ask, because I missed the, I think it was May 8th meeting, and I apologize, my work has been so busy. When, and we can come back around to this, I believe there was probably discussion about the sanctuary city discussion, because there was a video follow-up about that. And would somebody fill me in a little bit about what that discussion was, if that happened? But we can come back to that, Kathy, if you had a point that was related to the survey. It's
Go
tied
ahead.
together kind of, but
Can we, Kate, return to that later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note if you don't mind. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, if the students are coming June 12th, so then at our June 26th meeting, should we come back to this and refine the plan a little bit more depending on what their presentation?
Yeah, if you feel comfortable moving forward with just kind of informational,
Mhm.
I think we should have at least one conversation about that, I think, before we do that, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's enough time or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it can be whoever, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm okay with that.
That's all.
Does that feel good to you, Kate?
yep, it sounds good.
Can you hear us? I'm speaking a little bit more quietly than I
No,
normally.
you're fine. I can hear
Okay.
everybody.
I've been talking all day. Okay. Anything else about this? Okay, We'll get to sanctuary once we get through the agenda items, Kate, but know that I haven't lost that. Dashboard, business summary, feedback needed. The folks have a chance to review in their meeting packet, this document that Dan prepared, Dan, who's our RTIS person at the city, prepared after our conversation with him back at, I guess, March now. Basically, this is coming out of this conversation we've been having for a while about being able to, I'm looking at different things. What is this?
Oh,
Is this Kathy?
sorry, that's next. Yeah, this is where you are now.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Talking about data visualization, I think we're all familiar with that conversation. We met with some city staff from data visualization and from comms too. Elizabeth and Kathy were there. And this was a document that Dan produced after our conversation. And I think he's inviting our feedback and to see what next steps are. So I think a couple questions I have for folks to talk about is, one, is his summary reflective of your understanding of what we're looking to do? Just to make sure that we're all having the same conversation. And then two, answering his call, what are our reactions to this? What are things we want to chew on? What are things that we would like to explore moving forward? He identified some next steps from his vantage point, but reactions to this document.
I'm not, I don't understand, I'm not a data person, so I'm not really understanding what this accomplishes as just in itself, but.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's I'm sure there's a reason for it. It just, to me, I'm like, it's a lot of words, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
Someone else was sharing that the other day. I think what I appreciate about this step is he synthesized his understanding of what we're asking of him, which I think is important that we're having the same conversation. Plus, I will share something I don't remember was said in here, I don't think it was, that Dan preliminarily said that he thought this is something that the city would be interested in doing. That this is something that his team would be able to help us do. And so I think he, in his data way, succinctly kind of summarizes, I think, what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think we're all, I think we, the commission and his staff are on the same page. I think I'd like, folks input around what our maybe ambitions around timeline are, how we want to proceed, other conversations we'd like to have. Robert, you were in that conversation.
Yeah.
Is there any comments that you have?
I think Dan did a really good job, reading through this and everything, summarizing, what it is we're trying to accomplish, and to kind of answer kind of Kathy's question and what this is the goal would be to create a, data dashboard with this information. So this information is easily viewable to the public. So they're not having to hunt through, 55,000 different subpages on the city's website, or, having to view spreadsheets that would be able to easily view that information on the dashboard.
Right.
And so this are kind of take some of those data points that we're talking about, some of the results from the community belonging survey, as well as the results from, the information that we gather from our liaisons program, as well as, other community initiatives to publish that information. In terms of, kind of timeline, I'm kind of moving forward and everything, what it is that, we want to discuss, I think, it really, a lot of this hinges on Dan and his team. And so I think, before, we could create one, but I think, kind of the next steps would be, working with Dan again, or setting up, like a series of meetings with him to see, like how can we slowly implement it? And I think, a good way to start would be, one of the things that we could start with is, this year's community engagement survey. Like the results from that could kind of be our pilot for a dashboard model, just putting these results on there. And then, seeing, okay, like what other information can we add to it? And then what, Dan's capacity is to filter that in there. Look at kind of next from the community engagement survey would be, reports of, like bias crimes or bias incidences. But I think, kind of just starting something smaller that isn't kind of reoccurring, like this would just be a one-time data input for his team. It kind of also just gives us some data to visualize on a dashboard, see how we like that, and then kind of discuss the, the plan moving forward. But, I also, recall that Dan mentioned there was several other projects that the team was working on, in there. And then there's also, the topic of, budget and, like which departments are going to pay for it, how are we going to, like allocate that staff time. And so I think there might need to be, other conversation around that. How much time does Dan think that his team's gonna have to invest in this dashboard, up front, for that? How much reoccurring maintenance is gonna have to be involved in it? And then how are we going to, how can we make it work to meet our, the needs of both the city, the commission, as well as the community that we serve?
Yeah.
I understand that the purpose of the dashboard is this document is more. But I think it's fine, and nothing in there. I don't have any concerns about anything. I don't know what the next steps, I don't know what all of those mean, so I can't give it. But I'm sure that Dan does.
I'm sure it makes sense.
Yes, it's important to.
So if I'm tracking, maybe what I'm hearing is document looks good. Could you help us know what data culture diagnostic data and pipeline catalog might look like next? Can you help us understand your time availability as well as how much recurring maintenance is needed? And can we begin with some recurring meetings? And that might be when we split at the last Human Rights Commission meeting, there was discussion about splitting off a committee to care and manage the data project specifically. So maybe that's the point where that springs.
Yeah, it could be. I'm
So-
very open to that.
How is that sounding so far? Does that sound like how I get back to
I think,
Dan?
yeah, and I think to Robert's point around this most recent iteration of the survey being a potential pilot, I'll add a few things. First, if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but Dan had mentioned the basic architecture of this data visualization is something that other departments have expressed interest in from the city. In other words, this big commitment data visualization is not some kind of vacuum request.
Or the brainchild of the Human Rights Commission.
Or even that per se, but I guess his point was, I think he even said it this way, he said, we're gonna be doing this anyways, a lot of this anyways in the next few months, a year or
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Let's do this early with you, so that we can do this together and actually think of what we want it to make it, that doesn't make any sense. But I think the long-term goal that we've kind of vaguely discussed is to have a bunch of different data kind of in this data repository, right? SPD data, the data that Gretchen collects. Data, by the way, which means different things. I mean, there's literally like tallying numeric data, there's data, input, comments, things that we're hearing, thematic data, these are all these data are all relevant and we can visualize them differently. But I think we have to start somewhere small. So for example, we're probably not going to be able to integrate the state DOJ data like we went to right away, or even maybe even SPD data, which I think Lieutenant Dowd had mentioned maybe some questions around that. He didn't know what that meant exactly from the SPD side of things. And so that's a conversation we need to have, Data from nonprofits and CBOs, also an open question. And so we kind of have to start with what we know. And what we know is what we get from our community belonging survey, data that we can more or less historicize for 6 years, even though it's not exactly the same survey, we can find a way of representing that data. We have the data we receive on a monthly basis from Gretchen.
Mhm.
We even have basic data around the types of incidences that we get from SPD, that is public information. I feel like at that level is permissible to use in some way. Whatever that looks like behind the scenes might be a different question altogether. And we have agency over the data we're going to get through all of our community engagement stuff that we do, And so I feel like that, what is that, 4 or 5 kind of obtainable data that we can kind of actualize and visualize. Because this is also part and parcel with this larger project, where just to bring changes to like our public facing image on the website, just to make it a lot more accessible. And so, anyways, I think that might be a place to start in terms of data streams. Would you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like looking at it just from, like my, knowledge of, GIS systems is that I think, all this is gonna really just be a matter of layers, right? So, like they've already got, a map, and then, like the one that shows the wars is just a layer that, just layers on top of each other. And so I imagine that once these layers are built out, it'll be, relatively, I wouldn't want to say easy, but probably like once it gets there, it'd be easier for them to maintain, easier for, or feasible for them to add more data to it without having to reinvent the wheel. So, like we can start small, but then as we start wanting to integrate, police department data or more, like specific data regarding homelessness, or, want to, incorporate more, information to think about, like youth engagement. So like that, I imagine that to be feasible, but.
Yeah. I think in terms of like time demands.
Yeah.
In the future, after the tool is developed, there's like that sunk cost. There will be a time demand for Gretchen, who I see as the person who on some regular basis updates this information, or some person with the comms side of things. And that could be, this data governance committee we talked about standing up, will not even meet monthly, but let's say I met quarterly. And so we want this to be as live as possible. I don't know what that actually means, whether at 5 o'clock, at 5:01 it's updated. I don't know. I suspect it might mean something like monthly or even quarterly things are updated in a way that is more digestible for staff. But then I think that would be continued demands on a role like Gretchen's, where every quarter, let's say, the data governance committee meets and we kind of work through things, and then Gretchen spends an afternoon updating it. I don't know what that looks like, but we think that's fair, Rob?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's, definitely something, once we find out kind of what this is going to look like, and if we do vote to, break this off into either another subcommittee or, a task force or whatnot, looking at, kind of what those, the demands are going to look like in terms of both, that body as well as, the city staff, and then, clearly outlining kind of what those policies, procedures, and defined objectives are going to look like.
Yeah.
So that we're, not making one particular person shouldering the load.
Yeah.
And, like we're discussing, kind of what's going to be the responsibilities of that committee, and, in terms of, like getting the data ready to be published. Obviously, we don't have access to putting it in there, but we should also make sure that we're not adding more stuff to, Gretchen's plate, or, the plate of, city workers that are already, doing quite a bit. So I definitely want to be mindful about that.
Yeah.
So Gretchen doesn't have to work 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day, 5 days a week.
Although she works so seriously and rigorously, it's as if she does.
Yeah.
She fits into 8 hours. Fit in.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Does that give some direction?
Yeah, I think it does. I can circle back with Dan and then update you all at the next meeting if that sounds good. Okay.
I don't remember from the last meeting. I remember the topic of a committee coming up, but were there people interested in participating?
Yes, yeah. I'm interested. Robert was not there. I'm sure he would be very interested, and I would
In the
really
data committee.
want him to.
Yeah. Oh, I
really want him
would
to-
definitely be interested in taking a role in that.
And Lisa, I think, said that she
Yeah.
serves on
Well, that's
other
right.
data governance committees for
Big-
other.
Yeah, I think
public
Lisa-
bodies.
And then just imagine what Lisa does, like as a profession. I'd imagine that she'd want to, be in there as a grant
Yeah.
writer. A lot of her job focuses on data, and
Yeah.
I look at it from that angle too. Is that we could eventually use this data to benefit the CBOs within the city of Salem as they're trying to build out their needs assessments.
Yes, sort of symbiotic relationship with her. So I think, Lisa, that's 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
We've already got a chair.
a lot of
chair,
people.
and a participant. We've already got quorum there, so.
Kate, is there any insights that you'd like to bring to the conversation?
No, just originally looking through it, I was thinking like, because it talks a couple times about like showing the tangible work that the committee is doing, and I was just thinking if it's a actual like project plan, if that's what the document is showing, explaining what those tangible outcomes should be. Like I was just curious as if it was referring to like the liaison program, if it's referring to like just the things that come out of like the survey every year or come out of this, like I don't know how that would be represented. And so that was just I guess a question, but I think it's referring to things like the liaison program, because that would be data as a tangible program. We are going out into the community, and it would be data that would be visible in this program. So anyway, I think that's what's referring to, but it could be something to clarify. I don't think it's a big deal though. So I don't think we need to follow up.
Kate, this is Gretchen. Just to build on that, I could see both being included. As I've listened to you all imagine what this could be. I think you're right. It's like liaison program and the community engagement themes. And maybe from those, there's some actions that you do, but there's other ways in which you generate objectives too. And you might be finding some way. We've had documents in the past where we have like, here's a picture of the year and what the goals are that you're working towards. And then maybe at the end of the year, Kathy's drafted some of these, kind of here's what got accomplished, and then here's what's carrying into the next year, something that helps show the so what, as I think David mentioned a few meetings ago. Okay, your belonging survey talked about X, and then now you're working on Y, and now Z is a result, something that helps show that path towards an accomplishment of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I think that would make sense. So it's just tying together the data, a result, and our goals. I like that view.
Anything else before we move on? I want to be conscious of, we have plans. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay, and then I would love, maybe try to schedule another conversation with Dan
Okay,
at some point. Would also be part of that request.
okay,
I'd like to have Robert there as well.
okay. Copy.
Thank you. Liaison program. Hey, folks. It's spring, nearly summer. And we've kind of had a pause in this conversation, but let's get back into it. So we laid a lot of this groundwork. Really appreciated everyone's engagement on in this conversation. We had multiple drafts of example talking points and ways of engaging with folks. We kind of began to talk about how do we kind of intentionally select where we're going and all that stuff. And we even presented some of that to the commission, and we said, we'll get back to you soon. And then April happened, and here we are.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is, are we ready to start looking at dates and seeing people's real appetites are, the next, I think we should, I don't know, the guidance that I would give for this conversation would be, I'd be interested in trying to field people's availability in the next 6 weeks, to see when we can go out into the field and meet with folks, or is that premature?
So when you say liaison program, I'm thinking of something different than what I'm hearing you talk about. There's a liaison program, and maybe I'm understanding a prior version of it, where each commissioner personally connects with an organization out there, and you're talking about the outreach.
I'm talking about the outreach.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure
I did a little
on the same.
what to do. Yes, those are yes, in the same spirit of engaging with community partners, but yes, you're absolutely right. Different endeavors.
Yes, I think we should start talking about specifics. And I'm looking to see, I know that I have printed up, maybe I didn't print them off. updated, the most recent versions of the talking points and get them out to everybody. Maybe we can talk about it, well, we'll have the presentation. Or June meeting, we may not have time to talk in too much detail at the full commission meeting in June.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to put it off necessarily any longer. I mean, other than just to make sure that we're ready to go.
this feels like something that maybe we could, given kind of like time constraints, the presentation always goes long.
Mhm.
Not in a bad way, but it always
Yeah.
takes up the meeting. I remember last time I was in Corvallis, actually, calling, remember that?
That's right.
I was like, huh? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's really something.
I remember that.
Anyways, I think kind of getting us into a more forward-facing direction, we could do a few things outside of meetings. We could send people the most recent talking points, for lack of a better term. We could send out people's availability, or rather, request for their availability. I think, I don't think it's a radical proposition to say we might do a weekend, maybe for, let's say, no more than 3 hours. I don't know.
Is this for the community engagement?
For the community engagement.
Kind of one thing that just kind of, started running through my mind as you were talking about the, just like finding a weekend or something. My mind kind of immediately went to a point in time count, similar structure to where, we partner up members of the commission, maybe even, family, friends, and anything that we might have that want to do it. And then, kind of designate kind of areas and, just saying like, hey, like we're going to meet, here, like X amount of time, we're going to kind of, divvy up assignments, and then we're going to send, like maybe 2 people are going to, like target businesses and everything, just kind of up, Lancaster, 2 people are going to do, businesses downtown. We're going to, like work it for, about 4 hours, and then, kind of meet back here, turn in like the information, like the results that we got, so that, like the list of businesses we visited, and we're not losing it. So I kind of do like that idea. Kind of maybe just, and it might be a good way too, if we kind of just, if we can kind of do that structured approach, it allowed more people to get in the field and everything at one time. So then we can kind of also do kind of, like an abstraction of it, and then determine like, hey, do we want to keep that structure? Or do we want to go kind of more like that independent, like route as, people have time, in terms of the community engagement. So just my thoughts.
Maybe, I like that. Maybe we could provide options for
Sure.
what an afternoon might look like.
Mhm.
So in the same way that we would provide options for dates, we could provide, maybe we can talk about maybe 3 or 4 ways of dividing it up. Certainly in pairs, but whether it's some in downtown, some in Lancaster, or something else, or whatever that may look like, the hours, you name it. People can vote on their preferences for what that afternoon would look like.
Okay.
Is that viable?
Yeah.
And just like you recognize both types of outreach, would you want me to blend in both too? Like, here's engagement opportunity options, and we have this Google document where you can sign up to be a liaison to a neighborhood association or a community group or another board. And these are both available. What are you interested in? You want me to kind of do it that way, or keep them separate?
We could, I love your thoughts are, but I think what I struggle with is we've done this liaison, setting up people's liaison things in some way or another, at least twice.
Yeah.
And, I feel like the community engagement committees, we kind of engage in the commission.
Yeah,
The community is
yeah.
the commission, and it's not really working, people will, they say, yeah. I say this with a lot of love and generosity, they'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then it doesn't.
What if maybe, kind of on that, we were talking about, like people like kind of picking groups or like areas and everything they'd be interested in. What if we asked, members of the commission or anything to just come back with a list of, like frequent meetings or, collaborative events, they participate in. And, so that would give us kind of a better idea of, kind of like who they're interacting with. And so instead of, kind of recreating this wheel, they just kind of blend in, like their work, the Human Rights Commission, and into these, engagements they already have, that'd be, you know, like attending, you know, like the COC's, you know, like homeless collaborative committee meetings, or, you know, the Salem Police Department, you know, service provider meeting. You have folks that are, you know, some of this, you know, like regularly active in their, you know, neighborhood and, you know, like associations. And then we have that list of places and kind of, you know, like a general idea of, you know, like the reach that we're already having.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, hey, you know, like I'm gonna pick, you know, like these 5 different, you know, like, you know, providers, or, you know, like this group. Well, turns out and they already interact with that group on a daily basis. So does it really need to warrant its own new thing? Or can we just kind of, you know, like find, you know, like certain HRC things that we want them to interject in their conversations while they're attending those meetings?
And I think your point is well taken. I mean, I feel like the difference between the liaison program and the community outreach is an organized effort to go do something together.
Yes.
The liaison program is more passive so far.
Yeah.
We have to upset the way we're looking at it and invert it, because whatever we're doing is not working.
Mhm.
And so we need to find what they're already doing, and I think it's great. I think that's really smart. Yeah. Is that how we want to do it, in terms of having them compile
I
the
can do
list of
that.
things that they do?
I could do that.
Yeah, that's the best way, yeah.
I still feel like combining. I don't wanna give too many options, because then we're not gonna have anybody who's gonna wanna go do the outreach that we're talking about, if that makes sense. Like, you know, oh, well, I already interact with this group, so I think I'll just choose to be the liaison there, and then I'm good. When we want to have this concerted effort to actually go out into the community.
I view them as complementary but independent.
Yeah.
And I think,
So keep it
so
separate.
maybe I'm tempted to say, even though they're both in the spirit of outreach, have them separate.
Yeah.
Like one at a time. First
Yeah.
we'll do this, and then we'll.
Yeah.
And then with the goal that eventually they'll happen concurrently,
Yeah.
but we're gonna phase them in separately.
In fact, why don't we wait to even talk about the liaison over email until after we meet
Yeah,
and say, by the way, we'll send an email about when they're available the next, month and a half, but
Yeah.
about it for the outreach on the ground, or in the field. But maybe at the June meeting, we're saying, by the way, because we even went so far as to actually finalize a list of organizations and send it out to people to sign up for. Did we not?
it went out.
We did.
I think
It
we
went
did.
out. I'm not clear on if we actually did the please sign up phrasing. I can't remember.
I feel like we did.
We've got a Google sheet though that has all the groups and
Yeah.
people could write their names by it.
Yeah, I recall seeing it, and I'm not sure if I like opened it and then had a scroll moment and then forgot, or if I even put my name in there somewhere. So
And I'm
just
notorious
have,
for
like,
sending it out where you
with,
can't
like-
actually fill it out too.
Yeah.
I keep struggling with that.
But my point with that is maybe, since we've already done that,
Yeah,
we've
let that sit
we've
for a
really
bit.
taken it to that natural end.
Yeah.
We're not really getting, no one's taking the bait, for lack of a better term. Let's just convene in June as we normally do and say, by the way, please, we're gonna send out this follow-up email. Could you please send us what not what you're interested in being liaison with, because we've already asked that question. But
Yeah.
what to Robert's point, what you already are doing and where you're
Yeah.
already showing up in the community, so that we can work together on finding more pragmatic engagement
Mhm.
options.
Gretchen, it was a similar list to the one that we had for the survey. So it was very similar to that.
It
List.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I like the idea of just creating like districts and saying, okay, split up in pairs and just go do outreach in these districts at times that work best for the pairs. So just go do it instead of like talking too much about it. I think we've talked about it for a couple months. I think it's time to just do it and figure out what schedule works best. Kind of pair up and just figure it out.
You're talking about
And
the outreach, Kate?
yeah, outreach specifically. And it's not, we're not going to like necessarily like Bridgeworks or Arches, right? Like we're going to these small businesses. We're going to like walking up and down. I don't, in my free time, I don't walk up and down Portland Road, but it would literally be like walking up and down Lancaster or walking up and down Portland Road, right? And just like going into businesses and introducing ourselves, things like that, right? So, or driving if it's
So
more
yeah, I don't think anyone walks up and down Lancaster. But.
They do, they do.
And I know people
In the
live.
median, in fact.
Actually,
Yeah.
I can't even walk anywhere. And so, what I was gonna say was, I think that there are two questions two distinctions we haven't really, we've kind of just assumed. The first is, we have talked a lot about outreach to businesses, but businesses are not the only entity that I think we're interested in doing outreach to. You know, there's also faith communities and CBOs and healthcare, I think, you know, business is a part of that. And, you know, I just wanted to pause and say, we have been talking about businesses as like a first thing, but it doesn't have to be businesses. So I'd like to
Yeah,
just.
I think though too, and I think that's where, you know, like a lot of that, you know, kind of where some of that liaison work, you know, like interjects. I mean, because, you know, like some of those, you know, like CEOs and faith-based organizations are already gonna get, you know, like there's already gonna be natural touch points there just based off of, you know, commission members, you know, everyday affiliations within the community. And, you know, so I think, you know, and maybe this is just me and everything, because I live, you know, like kind of in like a nonprofit bubble where, you know, like every, you know, almost every CBO knows each other, or, you know, like interacts with one another. But, you know, like I think that, you know, a lot of those types of organizations will get touched through the liaison, you know, program naturally, whereas, you know, like those businesses would, you know, kind of like require, you know, more of our attention, and I would say more of kind of like a focused approach, because they're typically not getting engaged.
I agree. I just wanted to name the fact that
Yeah.
we don't have to start businesses,
Mhm.
but I wanted to confirm that we are interested in that as the first group to do that.
Yeah. I would say so. Like, I think a lot of those other organizations are gonna come natural. I'd imagine that Northwest Human Services, like say for example, like Northwest Human Services or, you know, Salem First Presbyterian Church might naturally come across or hear about, you know, the Human Rights Commission or anything, just kind of like an everyday conversation or engagement with somebody and everything that's affiliated with this body. Whereas, you know, the owner of a downtown business or, you know, a coffee shop on Lancaster probably isn't going to know anything about the Human Rights Commission or hear anything about it unless somebody, you know, kind of just shows up.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think what I learned is I didn't even know, I should have known this, but the bike shop on the corner of, what is it, Market and Broadway, I didn't even know that was owned by a church. And so I think there are a lot of like little nonprofits around that are faith-based nonprofits too, and also coffee shops. And so I think there's a lot of intersection across all these things, right? So I think you're right, Robert. But I think it's just like, do we split it by district? I think we should just make a decision on how by the next meeting, we should have a decision on how we're going to do this so that we don't waste the time of having nice weather and we're out having these conversations. Again, like even if it's setting up a meeting and two of us go into, again, like the Willamette Provost office and have that initial conversation, it sets us up for success next year. So I want to make sure we're not spending the next 2 or 3 meetings talking about it. It's just like one meeting and then we're doing it. And it's not a continuing conversation.
What if we jumpstart our business engagement by presenting at the Salem Chamber of Commerce? Like, if, you know, if we could, you know, get in there, I mean, that would be one way that we could jumpstart, you know, and kind of also, you know, tackle, you know, kind of like a mass list of businesses at one time, is if we, you know, somehow, you know, maybe this is something too, and then that after, you know, like we, you know, try to coordinate a meeting with the Salem Chamber of Commerce after we deliver kind of like our initial data point from the community belonging survey, so we can go to those business owners too with, you know, some data. I'm not saying we postpone our outreach engagements,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking that would be another, you know, kind of avenue where, you know, if we're like, all right, hey, you know, we want to, you know, essentially cast, you know, like a small net and get a lot of people, might be one way of doing it.
Yeah, like business associations too. That would be good. Realtor associations, if we're talking about homelessness or things like that.
I forgot his name, but you connected me, Dave, is it David Reinhold?
David Reinhold.
Yeah, like his organization would be like another one too that, you know,
Something about the business
Yeah.
line. that what it's called? It's also, to Kate's point just now, there are kind of neighborhood business alliances too, like WSBA, West Sound Business Association, which has really diverse speakers, so we would totally fit in that. I mean, it's all over the place.
You know,
But I was gonna say, I don't know what. I do go to Chamber of Commerce meetings, because of my capacity on the board of chariots, and we have to go. And so I'm there a lot. I'm not sure, I'm not intimately familiar with the leadership of the chamber, but I don't know if a presentation is what they'd be looking for, but to your point, maybe getting on some kind of listserv or some kind of getting a blurb out to them. The entity that might be really interested in hearing from us in the presentation format would be the City Club.
nothing about that. I rattled off the, Chamber of Commerce just because like it kind of more thing in businesses. And so like, I'm not as familiar with, like how the Chamber of Commerce works, but, I also think too, kind of looking at it because, we discussed about it too, is, we could walk up to the, like a local business on, Saturday, but is the person that's going to have, like the authority to authorize hanging flyers in a bathroom or, like allowing us to present material in their business, are they likely going to be there on a Saturday at, like 1 o'clock when we show up? Probably not. Whereas, going to, these business alliance meetings or these associations, we're most likely like we have a higher probability of reaching somebody that has, decision-making authority within their organization or company.
I think you're right. And by the way, I wasn't trying to say no to the chamber idea. The chamber's really smart. I don't know what that would look like.
But yeah, I mean, even then, even if it's just, starting by just getting access to the listserv and just sending out an email or creating a flyer and, being like, hey, would you mind just sending this out to everybody?
Yeah. And the president of the chamber is a younger guy, kind of enthusiastic. I forget his name.
I'm forgetting to at the
I
moment.
can picture him, but I can't, So might be something that's reaching out.
Yeah.
So I'd like some clarity on where we're ending this conversation. So I agree, Kate, we talked about it for a long time. There was that pause. I'd like to get it done, to have it happen in the next 6 weeks, because by the time mid-July rolls around, it's gonna get hot. August is gonna be I feel like too hot to just kind of walk around.
Yeah.
Potentially, I'd rather do it in July, early July, late June, maybe even. That doesn't give us a whole lot of time. It gives us, like I said, like 6 weeks. So how do folks, in the spirit of answering the urgency of it and just making it, giving people a sense, what does it look like? Go ahead.
If as part of this, handing out materials to put in bathrooms, so we need to make sure that's ready to go.
Yeah.
Which is what I was thinking when you said.
The QR codes and our business cards and all that stuff, which we do have business cards.
Yeah. I think we have the QR code posters and the business cards. Kelsey
Okay.
helped us prepare those.
Okay.
And I've been researching name tag options for you all, and I can come to a conclusion about that for you.
Okay.
Because I know you wanted something to have.
I have my Salem, City of Salem, with my name on it.
You'll have to show me what you got. I'm
We
not
can
sure.
do
Okay.
for events.
Oh, the thing that was printed and stuck in the plastic?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I wear it to all of it.
Oh, great. Okay.
That's not bad. It's not that option, just those.
No, it's like a lanyard.
Put it inside the board, like, you can wear it.
Yeah.
online.
At an earlier meeting, I think you were talking about wanting something a little more durable and
More-
formal
More
looking.
official.
yeah.
That didn't look like it was printed off of a
That's
printer,
right.
which is what those were.
I forgot
And
that
so
conversation.
I've been looking into those, like the badges, like what mine looks like, or a nicer magnet thing, and just, I've been researching pricing on those options for you.
Does the city not have like an ID card?
Wait, that's what I mean, yeah, so like I learned I don't have it, I thought I had it out. We do, and there's not a consistent way in which those are available to volunteers across the city, is what I've learned. But there is one team that has those for some volunteers, but they don't seem to have the names specifically. It just is a generic, like library volunteer, for example. So I've been trying to figure out what might be, as opposed to printing like nice magnet
Yeah.
ones with your real name and Human Rights Commission, but then that's more expensive and So trying to figure that out. But I guess all that is to say, I think we could have the materials ready.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm wondering though, if you wanna hit the timeline of end of June, early July, boots on the ground, I wonder if there's not then time for the poll of options, and instead of a poll of which do you like, maybe it's, here are some options, can you sign up for one of these, like a group Saturday in
Like
June?
a sign up genius
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah,
Basically
yeah.
like, hey, like these are the time slots that are available.
yeah, and so maybe I just throw a dart on a dartboard, here's a couple of options, and one of them is a get pairs, go into districts, and you pick your own time, but come and get the materials. And then here's a day where you could all meet here. We dispatch together and then we meet back for a debrief, maybe throw out both of those and have actual dates and see what sticks. Cause usually it takes a while for people to respond. When I put out a poll, there's usually some that respond and then a lot that don't. And then so it can take a couple weeks to generate responses on polls. And so I know that'll slow us down. So it might work if you just throw out a couple of things and say, okay, who wants to come, on June, I can't read that, but the last Saturday in June, for example. And we've got World Beat, by the way, then too. So that'll be coming out too.
And last Saturday is working? Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
I'm
actually,
just wondering if
World Beat
it'll
might be
speed
a good
things up.
example.
why don't we
Yeah.
just walk around
Why don't we just,
and talk to people there?
You can,
We have the table, but
Yeah.
we could also just walk
you can
around.
always go around, yeah,
That could be one of the.
that could be one of the choices,
ones.
okay.
yeah,
Great. Good.
There's also a Pride event coming up,
there is.
Yeah.
There's that Pride block party, I think June 18th.
Oh, yeah.
isn't it?
No,
I think it's
June
sooner than
18th is a weekday, is it
It's
gonna be
June
the? Oh, yeah, I think it's June 8th,
think it's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, I didn't do it with an 8, yeah.
Another option.
So just thinking about a way to speed it up.
There's
To Kate's
also,
point.
like, isn't there like also gonna be like a big 4th of July shooting date type thing? Like,
There is
people want me to
there's
do
fireworks
stuff
at the
for
fairgrounds again this year. A lot of people go to that.
A lot of people go to
that. Our engagement's coming to us.
that. Well, I like that. It's almost like a hybrid of what we normally do anyway.
Yeah.
It's just another,
Yeah, we're kind of just. So like, hey, like instead of just.
I still think we should go,
Yeah,
Yeah.
canvassing.
but
some
at least those are
canvassing.
options that we can say definitively. We have dates, times, can you commit to being here in this capacity?
Yeah, I think we could list out those dates and I think the known events, like, hey, like sign up and everything for the events that you wanna do. And then, also just, we can also just build in, kind of, outside of those events and everything, like the other ones and everything, like, hey, do you wanna go out to, like these locations and, just kind of, hey, choose your own journey.
Yeah.
Gretchen, weren't there a couple of commissioners who hadn't been to meetings in a while too? And we had talked a while back about reviewing that. I mean, because if we are doing this effort and we have the survey results coming in, is it like a good time to review if people haven't been in for a couple months? And there were people who were applying, right, in a couple open positions. So is it a good time to get like some new people in for this
Well,
too?
it is, and Kate, it's good that you asked that because at the last city council meeting, 3 new people were appointed to the Human Rights Commission. You all don't know that yet.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Great.
Kira, Elena, and a third name that I'm forgetting right now that we actually hadn't seen in a meeting, but the committee has appointed them. And so we should be at the full 15. We also tried to do some outreach to folks we hadn't seen in a little bit as well and encourage some re-engagement also. So yeah.
Do you know Elena's last name by chance? Is it Kleinfeld?
Is it Lynn? I want to say Lynn.
Yeah, okay. So Ilana is
Alana Lynn.
Yep, from Equity Action Partners, and they're a great person because they're connected to a lot of those CBOs as well. So that is great. Yeah. So perfect example, right, of having new people to help us out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the next commissioner will be there first.
Yes,
So that'll be a good timing as well.
yeah. Hi, come out with us
Yeah,
Yeah,
and engage with your groups and yeah.
show us you're interested. Okay, well, do folks feel comfortable closing that conversation? Also recognizing
Yeah.
we're only have 5 minutes left.
or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I just, to your question, Gretchen, about putting out either option, see what sticks. I don't know, I'm just not confident that you'll get a good response
Yeah,
to that. Or what if it's split, like two people say, yeah, I'll do this,
that's
and
what I
people
was
say, yeah, I'll do
thinking too.
this, then
that's what'll happen probably.
We got this, Kathy. We're gonna do it. We'll do it. It'd be great.
Yeah, no,
Well, I know at least 4 people are gonna do it.
Yeah.
Right?
If any of you,
That's awfully nice of the 4 of you guys.
if any of you are particularly attached to the group canvas idea on a Saturday, for example, if you think, gosh, I would like to meet at City Hall, you know, go out in pairs for 3 hours and then meet back and debrief, and you know of a Saturday that works for you, if you let me know, I could build around that. If you send me an email, maybe by Friday, I could build around that and just lock that in as a date.
Well, are you folks interested in kind of like that group idea? I just think the individual approach and thing, you know, kind of do what Kathy's saying is.
I feel
difficult,
like,
But I also think trying to get a bunch of people that want to sacrifice
Yeah.
a Saturday for 3 hours.
yeah, getting enough people that are willing to do that, I think might be difficult, but I also like the idea of that for at least the first one of doing something like that, so we can all, okay, here's what we're gonna do, go do it, come back, okay, how did it go? So that we can use that so next time, how do we wanna approach it differently?
Yeah, could be
But-
helpful.
What if? I'm gonna say, what if our next community engagement committee meeting, we moved it to 5 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock, and we just did downtown, and we just left from here to just, you know, walk the 2 blocks and then start canvassing the downtown corridor while people are enjoying their happy hours and people are out and about moving around. And then we're not asking people to sacrifice time, we're just asking people to adjust a date that they've already committed.
Idea generator tonight.
Yes.
My goodness.
I like that.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Like, yeah, I think it's just like a lot easier. I mean, we're already just 2 blocks up from downtown, and then we're not
Mhm.
asking people to do it, and then we can be like, hey, look at that, guys, it was that easy.
So did you say the next?
But well, I was gonna suggest that, but we've also got the results from.
We got
the
survey
community.
results to,
And LGBTQ meets at 6, which a couple of you are on. So I need to decouple those 2 from the evening. But I like the concept.
Or if we want to just add
or
another day.
choose a different day.
There was another.
We could do another Wednesday.
Yeah, like I'm okay with adding another Wednesday to, you know, the schedule for that. Like,
Yeah.
if
Third
other
Wednesday's
people-
open, yeah.
And we you know, we could do that and then get drinks afterwards.
Yeah. I mean.
I was- I was
Yeah,
gonna joke. We should canvas Don Froyland together and canvas for some quesadillas. That sounds great.
I love that. I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
Something like that, I think is a good idea. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, Gretchen suggested the 3rd Wednesday, of June, just so that we're not adding the others. Does the 3rd Wednesday, June 19th work for everybody?
I have to go look at my calendar.
does
I'm
it
wondering
conflict
if-
with community Juneteenth events?
Are they generally in the evening? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm sure there will, yeah, that'd be something
We
to
could
look
explore
into.
that, or we could pull out there of other Wednesdays that might work for people.
Yeah. But I think we are a small enough and invest enough group, but we could probably decide on Wednesday
Yeah,
over Doodle or whatever you call it.
Doodle,
yeah,
I'm not hip.
I could.
Doodle
Yeah.
or sign up
Yeah.
genius, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Doodle's kind of better for like trying to deconflict calendar things. Sign Up Genius is more kind of geared towards, you know, like signing up for, you know, like events that have, you know, specific times and all of those. But yeah, I like the idea of a doodle poll.
Great,
Okay. So we're recognizing that we're gonna invite people to do this sort of outreach at the block party and what's the one? What's it called?
Will be.
will be, and that we are gonna find a Wednesday to meet. I feel comfortable moving forward with that, because we have other things to talk about.
The Pride,
Yes, there's others.
the Pride block party is going to happen before we have any other meetings, so I'm just,
So probably not.
will we be ready? I mean, that's only 2 weeks away. Unless
It's
we
happening
wanna do
this
that,
year.
I know.
My goodness, okay, yeah, that's a good point, I don't know what. Maybe not that one then.
I mean,
I'm also not, I've never been to, well, I've been to plenty of block parties, but not.
I mean, I'd be willing to go, I'm just saying that there's no more meetings.
My
between
question
now and
is that something that would be welcome at with this sort of outreach?
I don't know.
I don't
We would
know.
wanna ask.
I would have to ask. For the Will Be, to me, it makes sense.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
a bunch of tables.
I know that'll work.
We'll go, we can talk to people. You know, a block party is kind of celebratory, I'm not really sure if that's,
I think we'd have to ask
Yeah.
Zach.
That's a good
We'd have to
question.
ask
Yeah.
the Pride folks, does this idea?
because we're
fit?
not tabling, we're like going up to people, and
Right.
it's a different kind of.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, now you mention it, I mean, I think it also kind of just, yeah. I think people would find that bothersome if they're trying to attend an event or thing, and then people are trying to like, hey, can I?
Can I talk
interest
to you
in
about my
learning?
thing?
Yeah, can I interest you
that's a
in
good
learning
one.
about the Human Rights Commission? It's like, yeah,
I'll take that one on.
It's just a question, I don't,
Yeah,
yeah.
we don't wanna bomb their event with our
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
And I think that with the fact that it's not gonna be before then, maybe.
Yeah.
just scratch it off.
Great.
Okay, well, we have those two options, and we'll decide on the Wednesday.
sounds
That
good.
sounds nice.
Yeah,
Okay, real quickly, awareness communication, Kathy, yes,
yeah.
drafted this for.
Well, I didn't draft anything, I pulled information, I copied and pasted out of something else. that
And we are
already
grateful
existed.
to you for doing
But-
it,
We are.
for Jewish American Heritage Month. I have to admit, I didn't read every line, but I skimmed through it and it looked great,
Looks
so,
I really did just copy and paste.
yeah.
One of the community members who was at our, I think it was May 1st meeting, sent a lot of material to Gretchen and I. And I feel like for the communication, it really would come across better if it were simpler, is what I was trying to be simple, but also have some information, so. Yeah, if you are okay with it or have any suggestions, otherwise. That's fun, somebody else will see it before.
I just wanted to say that I think highlighting in the awareness communication, Jewish American Heritage Month, you know, with all you know, the concerns that, you know, our Jewish community members had and everything, you know, after our, you know, discussion for the resolution, and, you know, with this resolution, you know, drafts of it going to city council on Tuesday. I think, you know, making this part of our communication thing also kind of reaffirms, you know, the, you know, commission's, you know, commitment, and that, you know, like we're here for, you know, all of Salem residences. And I think, you know, by being able to publish a communication thing shows that, hey, you know, like we're not taking a side, you know, in this issue, and that, you know, we're validating, and that, you know, like we're showing that our Jewish American, you know, residents of Salem and everything are heard and welcome. So my thoughts.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kathy. Kate, any comments around the Jewish American Heritage
I think,
Month?
yeah, absolutely, we should recognize it, and, you know, Kathy's been really thoughtful about making sure that people feel safe and included, and I think that's great, so I agree.
All right, so. Let's get her done.
Great, will do.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, Sanctuary City update, to your earlier question, Kate. We had, I was gonna ask you to put us in touch.
I did, I thought I did, I'll double check.
Well, I can double check too, but she had asked
Yeah.
to talk to me, or then we
Yeah.
should connect, and I don't know if we did.
Okay, I'll double check.
But we had, representative from, and, what's it?
Ariana House?
Ariana House,
Yes,
Ariana
That's what I
House.
had written down.
That helps asylum seekers in the Salem area get access to legal and other sorts of services. Come and talk to us about the sorts of kind of themes and issues that she works through in her professional life. And we had, I think, a rich conversation. I think she and I dominated that conversation, but it was a good conversation nonetheless. And it's kind of confirmed a lot of the things we've been hearing and talking about, and That was the conversation that I think you missed, Kate, if that answers your question.
That's yeah. And I just went to an event at Willamette. I don't know if they still have it up, but it was an artwork opening of it was artwork with like 3 different panels about especially veterans who had been oh my gosh, I can't think today. Veterans who had been sent back to other countries, who had not been naturalized, had been promised naturalization in the US, who had not been fulfilled that promise, and then had been deported. That's the word, deported. And then there was an immigration lawyer who was speaking. There was a woman who had experienced like what it was like to go through a process of ICE coming to her place of work. And it was a really good event overall, hosted by Willamette at Willamette. And I believe the artwork might still be there in their dining hall. So I just attended that event like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the reason that I was asking that is because based on what comes out of the survey and based on the change in city councilors, I think the information that comes out of the survey this time might be really helpful to inform decisions or recommendations for city council. And, you know, I think the council that we have now, and I think the mayor that we have, are pretty, they keep seeking our help and our guidance and our direction, right? And so I just would hope that the new city council and well, I don't know if there would be a new mayor. I don't know. I haven't looked at any results or anything yet, but if there are new people, that they would also be open to that same counsel and guidance. So anyway, if there's a change in leadership in the city, and if we have this information from the survey, I think it's good to present it twice, but I'm hoping there's information that will kind of help us inform the sanctuary city conversation with our leaders. That was kind of where I was going with that, if that makes sense. Am I rambling? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. Thank you. I think kind of reacting to just the updated conversation on this, I think you're right. No matter what happens in terms of the mayoral position, you know, we're gonna have a very different council in January, right? And I think to your point, being able to different as in new faces on the council, being able to be intentional and proactive and to kind of work with them. And I think personally, I think the changes I'm hoping to maybe recommend as a part of this sanctuary process will center around kind of the feedback we got from the city attorney's office around employment, you know, citizenship and employment, those sort of things might be a recommendation to changes Chapter 97 as potential city code or city revised code change. Being able to have those strong relationships with the council would be important in that conversation, if and when we decided to do that and move forward with that. You're looking at me as if I'm not making any sense.
No, you're making sense. That came up at the last meeting too, and one of the things that worried me in the discussion is maybe a thought that the city might have the power to change federal employment situations. And that's one of the things I think the attorney is aiming to help us understand is we have limits in what the city can, like, we can't change the fact if somebody's unable to work in a certain situation because of federal law. And I didn't know, I'm looking at you because I didn't know if maybe we're misunderstanding each other, and that's maybe not what you're saying.
No,
But
no,
I was worried
yeah.
about that. We won't have a magic wand that says, guess what, you can work here in Salem. Because there's federal and state laws that our city code can't overcome.
Sure, I think my point is just that, forget the employment thing. Let's say any recommendations we make to city code or recommended changes that we recommend.
Yeah.
City code.
Yeah.
To Kate's point, will require, you know, those relationships. But
Absolutely.
I think we'd like to, if we can identify an area that we think needs changing.
Yeah.
We should make that change
Absolutely.
as soon as possible.
And the survey may help bolster the argument for doing so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just didn't
Yeah.
want people to,
Yeah.
you know, zero in on the employment part specifically, if
thank
that's
you.
limited.
Okay, committee goals and objectives, what was that about?
I think we're past time, but I
Yeah.
think the group had hoped to try to develop some back from the leadership meeting that you had.
Oh,
Well,
okay,
that-
yeah. Okay, any member remarks or announcements? None? We are a few minutes over, so I think with that, I'll bid you a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Kate.
Yes, feel better.
Thank you. It's just bad allergy season in the valley. Everything's blooming, all the fields.